Hello everyone and welcome. It's always good to be the keynote first up in the day rather than last up in the day because you're all sort of fresh of energy. I don't do any afternoon slumps or anything like that, mine or yours. Let me give you a little bit of background because that will give you context for the information that I'm sharing. I'm actually a teacher by trade, adult and education teacher. Never really went into that, started off in HR departments and worked my way through to running HR departments and then the tail end of that career in an executive position, which is unusual for a woman to have a seat at the table, but that's where I spent a lot of my time. And then after that portion of my career where I did a lot of transformation work just for my sins, ended up working with sort of mergers and acquisitions and pulling companies apart and putting them back together again. So I guess it was like HR on sort of steroids. I transitioned here into PwC and it was a really interesting meeting into PwC. So I met my boss, I thought I was networking. And I said to her, I think we've got the people business all wrong. This is not the way people will be done in the future. So we need to really look at it. And I got a napkin because I've been in a coffee shop and brainstorming. And I'd drawn what I thought future of work was, except I didn't know it was future of work, and I'm taking her through that. Anyway, a couple of networking later, coffees later, I thought she just really liked me, but she was actually offering me a job. Apparently it's really hard to get a job here at PwC, but anyway, that's how I got it. A napkin and some insights. Anyway, it feeds nicely into the work that I'm going to share with you today, because a lot of future of work is about driving your own career. It's about working out who you are, what you stand for, what your superpowers are, and how you can sell those basically in the market, which is different from the careers sort of 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, where we wanted everyone very much the same, because the third industrial revolution was very the same, and consistency was very important. Whereas now that automation is coming in, technology is taking care of consistency, so it's actually really unhelpful if we have thousands of people on a payroll that are very consistent and robotic, because then we've just got an expensive version of technology basically and much slower. So the work that I do here is very much around people strategy and problem solving. So I tend to spend my time in sort of larger organisations where we've got some sort of people challenges, where the people aren't doing what we want them to do at the right speed, at the right cost, or the right way, etc. So I deal with work around culture and leadership and change, fundamentally, even though it might be labelled still in very sort of technical workforce terms like workforce planning, workforce costing, and recruitment and career planning and development, etc. So that's my background. I do quite a few keynotes on future of work, so I'm just going to jump around a little bit. If you've got questions, please ask. It makes things a lot more interesting, and then I'll make sure that I can tailor what you're actually after. But my understanding is that you spend your days advising people around careers. Is that correct? So you've got a bunch of people coming to you wanting the great insights about how they're going to pay for their lifestyle that they've imagined, and they're going to live the dream of the fairy tales that they were read when they were 5, and that then they sit in your office and go, so what's that job? What do I do? What do I study? So I'm just going to give you a bunch of information for you to synthesize of new insights to take into that when you're having those discussions. So we see a growing curiosity about the future of work, and you'll notice there that I've linked how do you make a career and lifestyle choices. And it's kind of interesting to mesh that together because lots of people see that separately. So, you have a career conversation and then lifestyle sort of energy on top of that here. But it's, no, I lost it. My kids would laugh at me at this. They go, Mum, you talk about technology, but you're hopeless with it. Thank you. So what we know is that if you are sort of exiting school now, that the way we're living our lifestyle is going to get longer, and our pensions are dropping to non-existent, and the way of our economic lifestyle, well, for my parents' generation, they'll never be a more generation. So if you're 25, the generation that's in their 70s are the generation that are targeted to have had a most affluent lifestyle with not as much hard work. So if you're on a sliding scale from that, then you're going to be earning less and working longer to pay for that because pensions don't exist. So lifestyle counts because you're going to need to be able to physically work. So I've got two kids, 11 and 14, and we were at the dinner table, and Cadell, my 11-year-old, he says to me, he goes, "What did you do today?" I said, "Oh, I was at the University of Queensland doing a presentation on the future of work." I said, "I did that presentation." He said, "That's very impressive, Mummy." I said, "Oh, I know. I can cook a meal and I'm smart." And he said, "What did you say?" I said, "Well, did you know that you're going to be working until you're sort of 70 or 80 to pay for a lifestyle that is worse than the house and the lifestyle that you live now?" I sat there pondering, like they do before they hit puberty, so they're still sort of quite nice and cute. And he said, "I'm very sorry to say this, but actually I think you gave them wrong information." And I said, "Oh, why is that?" He said, "Well, he rattled off all of his grandparents that are all in their 70s. And only one out of those 4 grandparents, in his view, could physically undertake work, as in they were healthy enough to work." He rattled off all their ailments and how they walk slow and they get stressed about babysitting and all of that stuff. Because they couldn't possibly work. And I thought, this is a really interesting insight because I hadn't thought about sort of pragmatics of that. So if you do have to work, because I assume you want to eat and you might want to go on a holiday or caravanning or whatever you do, how are you going to pay for it? So your health becomes really, really critical. So taking care of your health now is a key factor in being able to work because the economy is not going to be able to support you in that. I just think it's a really interesting element there, and that's why I matched the two together. So I'm going to talk about 4 disruptors. 2 we know about. The other 2 we know about, but we don't necessarily connect to careers. And so you'll have to help me with timing because I'm also hopeless at that. I sort of get on a tangent. So we're going to talk about 2 disruptors, technology and longevity. Technology we hear lots about. It's in the media, there's lots of data coming through, it's very scary because they're going to take 53% of our jobs, apparently. But the interesting element about technology is there's 4 disruptors. We believe they are as impactful as each other, not just technology. So yes, technology will change the landscape. There's 2 types of people we're noticing in the workplace. There's the people that want to have a say, they want to do meaningful work, they want to do something interesting, they don't want to fit with the norm. Those people are going to be having a great time in the careers going forward because computers or technology will take care of routine work. Routine work is what the Industrial Revolution, the third one, is all about, where, in a way, leave your brain at the door, don't rock the boat, just do as you're told, compliance and consistency. So given that will be gone because it's heaps cheaper to automate it, so companies opt for that because that's competitive advantage, then in order to work with that, you've got to work out how to complement it, which means you've got to be comfortable to showcase your own ideas. You've got to challenge the status quo. You've got to look at the way things are done and how do we interact to do things better. So you've got to be able to complement technology. So there's a couple of things there, capabilities, and Tim this afternoon will talk in a lot more detail about actual capabilities, whereas I'm not going to do that. These key components, automation can't do. So if I was at high school wanting a career, or if I was transitioning and moving to another career, I'd make sure that I was really good at these 3 things to complement technology. So being able to solve problems. So what we know is the speed of change is so rapid and so complex that humans cannot keep up. So there's actually, for those that are sort of graph nerds, you can I think it's model. There's a graph that shows the gap in human development and the capability need, and there's only like 3 or 4% of leaders actually keeping up with that, and the rest are sort of grappling. So being able to solve complex problems, being comfortable with ambiguity is a key component. So things that help with that are your intuition, your creativity, your innovation, your empathy with the people components there. So when often people think about careers, they think about what are we going to do? What capabilities do I need to have? I prefer to think about how are we going to be? How are we going to show up? It's those elements of how are we going to work together? And so it's a different state of being to adopt those capabilities. Often what we see in workplaces is speed counts. You know, the person who works the longest hours and works the fastest sort of wins. That's going to be very unhelpful in the future because you're not going to be able to access the types of skills around the creativity and dealing with complexity to solve those problems. So people actually need to know how to shift gears. There's a time for speed and there's a time for reflection and slow and play so that you solve problems. Situational sensing and building trust. Trust is everything. Whether it's trust with a robot, trust with technology, but trust with a person. So customer experience, employee experience is huge because you can win and lose trust, and now on the technology platforms, it's now sort of a lot more exacerbated. Situational sensing, any automation can't do. So I can be in this room now, I can tell if I've talked too long, if you're getting bored, if I've said something that has offended you, if I said a joke and you actually found it funny. I can tell all of those things. Situational sensing. So if we learn that when we're little, that skill counts. So when I go in and I coach CEOs and executives, because we have these fundamental leadership profiles, what we find is that they've become so desensitized, they've sort of switched off the emotions and they've switched off the instinct because everything needs to be very logical and fact-based, etc., which is great, it counts, but just bear in mind that a robot will do half of that now, so it won't count as much. So being in tune with yourself and others and the environment is really key. Psychological safety is another element that's coming into a lot. You know, people feeling comfortable in a space to be who they are and not driving up and driving down and all of the So all of that fits in the same bucket. Interpersonal skills and relationships, being able to get on with people, work with people, sustain friendships is really key. So maybe if I was in your shoes, I'd be doing a bit of a friendship check, a relationship check. How's your relationship with your parents? How's your relationship with your family? How are you going with your friends? Have you got any friends still from primary school, etc.? So that ability to connect and hold and sustain relationships is important for themselves, for their own being going forward, but also networking, because the world of work will change. So knowing people and sharing and connecting outside of an organisation will be one of your keys to success. Longevity. So we touched on that a little bit with the story that I shared. There's a couple of key elements here that I'm quite keen on with people that come and work with me. And I also bang on about it to my kids all the time about how critical it is. And if you're in the health sector, it is a really key component because that's one of the growing industries and we've got the growing pressures on government, as they're aware of this too, obviously. So productivity, vitality, and transformation, we call them intangible assets. They're much more important, in my humble opinion, in my experience, than a report card full of A's. So this here is you as a human that you are going to sell until you decide to finish work. If you want a decent lifestyle, one that perhaps you're accustomed to now, that'll probably be 70 or 80 unless you bother. So productivity. This thing around needing for work, belonging somewhere, developing others, developing yourself, that sort of love for a fuller purpose is key. Now that's new because that was kind of something that was unhelpful if you had that 10 or 20 years ago. You didn't fit in the third industrial revolution. But now, having passion, disappearing into something, doing something that's greater than yourself is key. So again, we're back to be in tune with yourself. Work out what is it that you're good at, what do you love, what do you disappear into, what do you give for free just of yourself because you're happy to help others, etc. How much do you upgrade your own development and learn? They're key things to think about. And you often don't see them. You often see them with the kids coming through. And I said I sit on the side of football fields because I'm the boys. As I get to observe all of these elements here, and I watch these kids on the football field, and you can tell the ones that are really into it and the ones that are doing it because they're there to help. It's the same, you know. So we might be having a conversation at dinner, and one of the kids might be learning about economics, and it's well, do we have a debate about that, and what is it that you're learning, and how interesting is that, and how does it relate to the work? So you've got to be able to find that. There's lots of people in this world that are numb, and that serves them really well because you sort of have slipped under the radar. Finding your passion will help you work till you're 80, and also be a key element as to why someone would want to engage you in a traditional or non-traditional sense. Vitality, sleep, diet, and exercise. One of the key issues today is lack of sleep and the health impacts of that. So sleep disorders, the lack of sleep, the fact that it's trendy to not sleep, etc. You know, whether you're a higher achiever or not. Diet and exercise, there's plenty in the media about not eating well and not giving the body the nutrition it needs and the impacts of that. Connection and friendship, so there's lots also on loneliness, the fact that people don't have friends, they don't have people to talk to, etc. So the sort of the good old-fashioned skills of we eat together, we talk together, we connect together, we sleep, we take care of ourselves. Those old-fashioned skills that Grandma had are back, and they're really critical to survival. The last one there is transformation. So developing yourself and evolving yourself will become really, really key. So you won't have just one career, you might just have one passion, and then you will need to evolve that. So if you finish school and you decide to get a job or to do some education, you'll be back on that journey again and then again and then again. So it should be viewed as something that we just constantly evolve. But it won't necessarily be, oh, I go back to uni again and I undertake formal education. I might get a mentor. I might move cities and work in a different culture. So there's lots of different ways to evolve. These are just some of the key things that we're seeing the younger generation coming through. Posture obviously affects the sympathetic nervous system, your ability to access various aspects of the brain, particularly the emotional regulation part, which is really helpful when it's working. The impact of technology, talk about sleep, talk about eating. Expectations, there's sort of expectations people have. You know, the internet's terrific. My kids did ask if I could sell the house and we could buy a Lamborghini. They've done the numbers. They thought that we could and it would be okay. We do. This sort of perspective of what reality is. You know, they see young people out there and they've got sports cars and they're living the dream and they're YouTubers and you know, they've got their rat's tails and they're skittering through the streets. And I have to break it to them that that's not actually reality. I've never met one of those. We've all seen their bank account reflect that. But you know, these sort of expectations, whether it's what they're watching or whether it's people's expectations, because parents today have a lot of expectations that they're going to do great things and living vicariously through this. There's a lot of pressure in society for that. And so what gets missed is the actual human that's at the centre of that. What do they want? What is passionate for them? What sort of lifestyle will work for them? That sort of, we're coming into the values, then really understanding what values drive them. The other thing here is emotional well-being. We're seeing lots of depression. And certainly in the workplace and coming from a HR background, over the last 20 years, that's something that's really growing and really impacting. So people are doing more about it. but you are seeing people with a lot more conditions, which then apply pressure on workplaces as well. So the environment that people are in, that's one of the key things. It's not about what you want to do. You know, I did a teaching degree, I didn't go and work in a school, but I've worked in lots of HR departments. Some of them I liked better than others. It's the environment, it's the culture, it's the leadership, it's the boss that you've got, it's the people you hang out with. You actually have to think through all of that. It's not about do a course, I'm going to become this, and then I'm going to get a job. Tick, done, I'll be happy forever after. You've actually got to research, who do I want to hang out with? Who do I want to be like? Okay, there's two hidden disruptors that we think are as powerful as your technology element. One is society and community. So the way people live is different than it was even 10 years ago. And there's a number of factors applying pressure on that. But the way business works and the way family works is now an amalgamation of both. There's not sort of clear demarcation between sort of this is work and this is home. Everything's integrated. With parents both working, you know, there's the sort of working flexibly has become the norm. So that's great that companies are eventually getting to that and they can get their heads around that it's okay to work flexibly and you're not really goofing off, you're actually doing real work. But then there's the bit where you as the human need to figure out how do you work when you're not just coming to a central place. How are you going to plan, structure, organise your time? One of the key things with this integration is our emotions. So say, for example, someone in the family dies. If you do routine work, because I think bereavement leaves, 2 days or something like that. I've been in if you're on routine work, someone effectively can die in your family, you can have a massive fight with your husband, your kids can be off the road, and you can go to work and show up from 9 to 5 and do that routine work and not miss a beat. With non-routine work, you can't. It impacts performance, and herein lies one of the challenges of companies and people, is that life is life. You have fights, people die, kids go off track, that's life. And then you've got your work. When there's no set start and finish time, how do you navigate that? How do you manage the emotional component, the resilience, etc.? So that's another element that's really, really key. So you want a workplace, you want a job that you love, because that's all part of managing that. The other thing is society and people have different expectations on behaviour. So if you go back 10, 20, 30 years ago, behaviour in the workplace compared to today was tended to be swept under the carpet, like bullying and sexual harassment and those types of things. You got away with a bit of that. Now that's not acceptable, and it's expected that people are accepted, that people are diverse in thought, that it's an emotionally and psychologically safe place to be. So society sort of squeezing organisations for that. So for kids coming through that you're talking to, or adults, even it's probably harder if you're in your 40s and 50s, because at least the kids are sort of getting shaped on the way through. But you do need to be able to show up and behave acceptably in a constructive way. So if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you're aiming for self-actualisation. That's what employers are wanting to hire. So the sort of behaviours that helped you get ahead back in the day, they're not so much in fashion anymore. And the last one is the environment and climate change. Again, it's not thought of in a future work sort of career perspective. But let's just think about this. There's a lot of information to say that the environment is changing significantly. What does that mean for a career? Well, if you're a town planner, an engineer, or an architect, or anything, if you're a financial investor, if the world you know changes, it changes the way we set up our cities, how we build things, where we invest, etc. So the whole way that you go up, let's present into a superannuation room. We talked about this, about all the investments that they do on a global scale, and how that might not be pertinent or helpful, and the impact of that. How the national disasters impact the insurance companies because they're happening more frequently, and how the people in-house of a national disaster navigate their work and keep their people safe, etc. for the Brisbane floods. So what we know is our traditional way of learning will be disrupted because typically if you were a town planner, you might be mentored by an older town planner. That might be your university teaching, that could be your mentoring, and they would simply impart the knowledge down the line. Now, if the world has changed, what they've learned will be less relevant, and hence it'll be more of collaboration. It'll be taking, what did we used to do? What's the change of context, and now how do we solve it? So we're back to complex problem solving that the environment will have it for. And then lastly, I've just left you with 6 sort of key insights that I think would be relevant if you were planning your career. So when we look at high performance, and everyone, companies want to hire high performers. Not everyone wants to be a high performer. They have 3 elements. They have the intelligence, so being smart counts. If you went back 20 years and perhaps you weren't gifted with such great intelligence and you worked on the checkouts at the local supermarket, fine. If you had the same intelligence level today, you couldn't work on the checkouts because they're computerised. You require a different degree of intelligence. So sort of this intelligence, being smart, being able to work things through, etc., actually counts. So because of automation, the degree of skill has lifted. So there's sort of unskilled labour, manual labour. You're going to need a certain intelligence level. The second one is your emotional. So you need to be human. So care, connection, community, listening, empathy. Those elements really count. And then being able to be adaptable. So everything changes and changes regularly. So dealing with ambiguity and being able to sit comfortably in that and have a good time in that will be very helpful going forward, rather than sort of like people do during change. They will hold their breath until the company's finished, and then they hope it'll go back to the way it was, and those change people will just leave and never come back again. So being able to get a sit through is key. Match the job to your personality and temperament. So this is coming back to people understanding themselves. So are you an introvert or an extrovert? Are you agreeable or not really agreeable? What's your stress tolerance? Do you like to work in a pressure cooker, or you prefer to have time to think? So unpacking your personality and your temperament and the elements, and understanding who you are, and then what job and environment matches to that. Other one there, you turn out lots of people you hang around. So Linda Bratton run the business school. Has done quite a bit of work on the best way to develop yourself is to pick a group of people you want to be like and go and hang out with them. I'll institutionalise you. So if you're an engineer and you want to be the best engineer in the world, you just find out where that talent cluster is, and you go and live there. And so people will do that more and more. They want to hang out like the people they are. So if you're here and you want to be there, just go and hang out there. That will be faster than any degree or anything. Just don't expect the people over here to talk to you anymore because you're actually proving their identity by doing that. There is an INT, so knowing who you are, what you stand for, and what your superpower is. So I've been saying that everyone's got a superpower, you just need to figure out what that is and show you. Last 2, valuing reflection. So creativity, problem solving comes from reflection. Most kids have trouble sitting still because they're used to being on Instagram and texting all of the time. So sitting still with the birds chirping is something foreign for them. Even for some adults that are in very high pressure jobs, they're used to running. So taking time out to sit and reflect is really key, and it is actually work. It's not goofing off. And being able to ask good questions and tell good stories. So your key to problem solving is not coming up with the answer, which would have been the third industrial revolution way. It's about collaboratively unpicking it and figuring out how to solve that problem. Storytelling is really key with influence and helping people understand. So I've successfully gone over time. Thank you for letting me do that. So these were the insights that I hope were helpful to you. Kitty coming in this afternoon, he's done lots of studies on capabilities and the actual nuts and bolts of jobs, etc. So that will sort of plug in the other element there. Just before I close, is there anyone who has a question that's just so urgent you can't possibly wait for to ask? Fantastic. Thank you very much for having me, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.